welcome to the House of Strength Podcast. This is episode number 22. I'm your host, Ryan Munsey, and I'm joined by our coach, Tyler Purdue. Tyler's rocking his CPPS shirt. Just to remind everybody that we have the best coaches available. So if you're in Roanoke, come check us out. This is a special episode. We're going to do another listener Q&A. So Tyler is going to be throwing me questions that have been sent in by you, the listeners. And we're just going to roll right into it. So Tyler, let's have the first question, man.
All right, the first question is from Amy. Her question reads, I'm gaining weight while breastfeeding. I'm sure this is hormone related, but can you tell me what's going on?
Okay. All right, so in the interest of full disclosure, this is a question that I got about a week ago, and I had to look this one up. I needed to get some information on this one to answer it completely and properly. So this is not off the top of my head, but this is what we discovered and what we found. So before we get into anything, the disclaimer for this is the same as the disclaimer for anything else. So, you know, if we get somebody who's coming in and they want to peak for a certain athletic event, or if we get somebody who wants to have the healthiest baby possible, obviously there's nothing wrong with upping what you're doing and taking your health and your fitness regimen to the next level during that peaking phase or during a pregnancy. But the disclaimer is that we're advising you to eat as healthy and exercise and live as healthy a lifestyle as possible year-round all the time. So, you know, when we say that, we mean, you know, avoid things like sugar and avoid processed grains and all the foods that are going to have a negative impact on your body, all the things that we talk about regularly here on the House of Strength podcast. You know, you want it to be a lifestyle, not just something that you do for the 9 months that you're pregnant and then you go back to whatever it was. And I'm not saying that that's what Amy's doing. Let's cover all of our bases here. But this is what happens when a female is pregnant. In the weeks leading up to giving birth, there's a hormone called prolactin, which is responsible for signaling the body to begin the process of generating milk to feed to the baby. When the prolactin levels begin to increase, the body will lay down this is an average, but it's about 8 pounds of body fat in preparation for breastfeeding. So let's think about what's going on here. As a mother, you are providing nutrition for your baby to grow. So that milk is not just liquid water. It has nutrients in it. It has calories that will actually feed, nourish, and help that baby grow. So those calories have to come from somewhere. That nutrition has to come from somewhere. So yes, as a mother, you are going to have to store those calories to pass them on to your offspring. The other side of that is, I think that when you think about it that way, it does, kind of reiterate the importance of the quality of food that you're putting in your body. So think about it in those terms as well, and not just, okay, well, I had my baby, now I want to get back to my pre-baby weight. So here's some interesting things that we found related to the same, issue of there are some women who tend to gain more weight while breastfeeding, because the longer you breastfeed, or as you continue to breastfeed, prolactin levels stay elevated. It's not something that happens. It's not a 2 weeks before the baby is born, then it stops. As long as you're breastfeeding, then your body is receiving a signal, hey, this milk is, being used. There's a demand, so we have to fulfill that with a certain supply. So prolactin levels continue to stay elevated as you breastfeed. So when prolactin levels, there is a normal range, and then there are, women, there's a certain percentage every once in a while where their levels go above that normal range. And when that happens, they obviously are going to experience a little bit extra weight gain. There's also a lack of sleep. And anytime you get less sleep than you need, you're going to run into problems like increased appetite, increased cravings. You're going to decrease your willpower. You simply don't have the energy to handle stress or deal with things that you could normally kind of brush off or get past, move past. So you become a little bit more irritable. You're more frustrated. We've talked about the importance of sleep several times on the podcast. But when you're fighting a hormone that is keeping you awake, also you have the responsibilities of being a new mother. So there's a lot of things at play there that are going to contribute to feeling lethargic, run down, on top of a hormone that's making you retain nutrients. And obviously when you retain nutrients, that shows up on the scale as weight gain. If you're experiencing that, don't fret, don't fear, don't freak out. When you stop breastfeeding, prolactin levels will go back down. There are some cool treatments for people who have elevated prolactin levels and have issues with them going back down. One of the things that they found in these studies is that with an increase in prolactin, there is a decrease in the neurotransmitter dopamine. And what they've found is that supplementing with IV dopamine treatments has decreased prolactin levels and helped to get your metabolism back up to where it was before breastfeeding, or at least get those prolactin levels into the normal range and help get some of that excess weight off. So I know that's kind of a long answer. There's a lot of stuff in there. So, hopefully for Amy and for anybody else who is having that issue, there's your answer. I know that's not something that we normally talk about here on the podcast, but it's cool because, it's performance related, it's nutrition, it's sleep, it's health, and that's just another example of how your hormones truly govern everything. There's always something going on at the cellular level that is going to express itself in a form of either weight gain or weight loss or things like that. And that's what we're trying to get people who listen to this podcast to understand, is that, it's never as simple as, what it may seem on the surface. So, all right, what's next?
All right, cool. The next question is from Amber. He reads, "My doctor says I'm anemic. He thinks it's vitamin B12. What can I do?"
All right, so let's think about this for a minute. So vitamin B12 is one of the most complex vitamins known. It plays an important role in metabolism, just like any of the B vitamins. Specifically, B12 is involved in a lot of, it's a cofactor in a lot of metabolic functions. It's important in red blood cell formation. It also plays a huge role in brain function and your central nervous system function. So if you're deficient, you may feel like you're kind of in quicksand. You don't have that nervous system that is firing the way it should. So that manifests itself as being lethargic, not having a lot of energy. Obviously, if your red blood cell count is down, you're going to feel like a lack of energy. Just to give you an idea of red blood cells and what they can do for energy and endurance, cyclists, competitive cyclists, like, I don't think Lance Armstrong, but some of his competitors have done a lot of blood doping with EPO, which is something that increases red blood cell count. So, that kind of shows you what B12 can do for energy levels. So here's the catch with vitamin B12. If people are taking, there are a lot of nutrition, or I guess let's call them diets or fads out there where people will take shots of B12. Most of those are going to be synthetic forms of B12. Vitamin B12 only can be found in animal products. And this is what a lot of vegetarians run into. So we're going to get on that soapbox for just a few seconds here. Not very long, but if you're a vegetarian, you have got to do everything that you can to get vitamin B12. The top food sources for B12 are obviously going to be animal products. We're talking shellfish, specifically oysters, liver, especially from beef. And of course, here we want you to eat grass-fed beef. We've talked about that. We've had the farmers on. So if you're listening to the podcast, you know why. But not just beef liver, but all forms and all cuts of grass-fed beef, fish, eggs. I looked up eggs. This was really interesting. Duck and goose eggs actually have significantly more vitamin B12 than chicken eggs. So if you can get your hands on duck or goose eggs, those are going to be an awesome source. The cool thing about those is that those are not commoditized. They're not factory farmed. So if you can get your hands on goose or duck eggs, then 99% of the time they're going to be cage-free, pasture, high quality. So that's a really good thing. For vegetarians, it's hard for me to say this is what you should do because I'm not really one to agree with being a vegetarian. Most of the top vegetarian sources are foods that we don't recommend anyway. I think the number one that most people list are fortified cereals, and that's just that doesn't even sound like real food. So, and Tyler agrees. I see you shaking your head. So, there's also some research out there. This is not my strong suit, so I'm just going to mention it. And if you want more, we'll put some links in the show notes. You can read into this. But vitamin B12 in combination with folate. If you get one without the other, there can be some serious issues. And with folate, the best supplemental form is going to be folinic acid. So, like I said, I will put a link in the show notes if you want to pursue that a little bit more. Click that link and you can see some literature on that. All right, Tyler, I think that's it for that question. What do we have now?
Question number 3 is from Mark. It's a good one. He said, I thought fruit was healthy. Why should I limit my intake of fruit?
That is a good question. So this is another one we get asked a lot. I get this question a lot, so much so that I've actually written a blog on this. This is one that I will find that blog and the link to it. And again, this will be in the show notes. But we're going to cover it here too. So before we get too far into it, we need to talk about sugar metabolism. So let's take table sugar, for example. I think most people, when you think of sugar, your visual is table sugar. So table sugar is a disaccharide. Di is the prefix that means two. All sugars are molecules known as saccharides, and you either have a monosaccharide, which is one, or a disaccharide, which is two. Table sugar is a disaccharide. It has one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose. So the body's usable form of energy for carbohydrates is either fructose or glucose. If you have fructose, then it just gets broken down and it goes its own pathway. That's what we're going to focus on, but we're going to put that on the shelf for just a minute. Any other carbohydrate, whether it's a sweet potato or rice or table sugar, anything that's not fructose is broken down into glucose. And the metabolism there is, what most people are familiar with, where it's broken down into, the faster it gets broken down into glucose, or if it is straight glucose, it hits your bloodstream a little bit faster. That's where you're hearing that typical good carb, bad carb, how fast it's digest and into the bloodstream is going to impact or affect how quickly it elevates your blood sugar. So that's a whole nother discussion. We're not going to go too far down that road. But with fructose, it is metabolized differently than glucose. Fructose actually goes straight to your liver. And when it goes to your liver, it actually turns on something called lipogenesis. And lipo is a prefix that means fat. Genesis is the beginning of, or the creation. So literally it means fat creation. When you have fructose that goes straight to your liver, you are signaling your body to create fat. Simple as that. Now, there is a huge difference between eating an apple and drinking, a 32-ounce Powerade that's loaded with nothing but high fructose corn syrup. So, I think it's obvious to people when they drink, a 77-ounce big gulp soda from a gas station that's not healthy. There are a lot of athletes, and us being a performance training facility, we work with a lot of athletes. We see it all the time where they come in and they think that drinking this Powerade is a great thing. And it's not. A, there are far better ways to hydrate yourself. And B, it's terrible for your body because it's not even made with sugar. It's made with high fructose corn syrup. So you're getting this straight bolus of 60 grams of, or maybe even 100 grams of fructose, and it's going straight to your liver, and it's turning on that lipogenesis. So when we flip that switch, we're going to see, with lipogenesis, you're signaling your body, literally signaling your body to make fat, increase inflammation, and you're turning on storage of fat in your midsection, your belly fat area. So you're doing everything opposite of what your true goals really are. And like I said, there's a big difference between drinking large amounts of straight, liquid fructose versus eating a banana or an apple or an orange. There are redeeming factors. There are vitamins, minerals, all kinds of micronutrients and health benefits from, the highest quality fruits. So this is not to say, hey, you shouldn't eat fruit. But we've talked about this before. The timing of carbohydrates is very critical. One of the worst things that you can do is eat those and have them broken down, and you've got carbohydrates and insulin present at times where you don't want it to be present. Like I said, we're going to have a blog, or we already have a blog post to this. We're going to have it in the show notes. You'll be able to click on the link and see some of this. We've got diagrams and even the molecules of those disaccharides are on the blog post. But while we're on the subject of how much fruit, I think that you should limit fruit to 1 to 2 servings per day. That way, I think that the maximum upper limit for fructose for anyone should be about 25 grams per day. Anything over that, and I would be worried. And that's typically the amount in 2 servings of fruit. On that same blog post, there is a table that shows the amount of fructose in most of the common fruits. Not all of the sugar in fruit is fructose. So let's take a banana, for example. There may be 17 to 20 grams of carbohydrates in the form of sugars in any given banana, depending on the size. Maybe 8 to 12 of that is fructose. It just depends on the fruit. Some fruits have a higher percentage than others. So there's a table on there that shows you high fructose, low fructose foods along with the actual amounts. So, all right, Tyler, what do we got now?
All right, number 4 is from Connie. She's asking, can a 53-year-old woman expect full results when dieting and exercising?
Yes. Next question. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Connie, that's a really good question. Short answer is yes. Here's the long answer. And this is going to be a long one. There's a lot of ways that we can go with this. So the first thing is kind of like what we talked about. We've touched on this a little bit already, but everything that you eat is sending a message or a signal to your body. It's affecting your body on a chemical and cellular level. Our body is constantly regenerating and laying down new tissue. Our DNA is replicating more often than you can fathom. And every time it replicates, there are so many intricate things that have to go on. And if one little thing isn't matched perfectly, you wind up with some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a small mutation, because that new strain is not exactly like the one before. It doesn't mean you're going to be a mutant like X-Man with, claws coming out of your hand like Wolverine. But that's what's going on. So let's say this happens over and over and over. By the time you get to be 53 years old, it's like the game of telephone. So if you sit people in a line and I whisper something in the first person's ear and it goes down the line and down the line and down the line, And by the end of the line, it sounds nothing like what the first person heard. Our body, believe it or not, and thankfully, is much, much more efficient than that. Because if that were the case, by the time we got to be 12 or 13 years old, we'd be fish with gills and, a tail or whatever. But, that doesn't happen. So our body is actually really, really good at this. But we need to help it out. We need to give it things that are not toxic, are not poison, and that comes from eating foods that are not laden with chemicals and pesticides. It comes from eating animal products, animal meats that come from healthy animals. If you eat mercury or some other toxin that's in a sick, poisoned animal, you can't expect your cells to be healthy or as healthy as they were if you didn't eat that stuff. So that's a long way of saying that the better care you take over your entire lifespan, the more efficient, the healthier your body will be at a cellular level. The healthier you are at a cellular level, the better anti-aging effects you're going to see. So, we've all seen that person who's lived hard, drank way too much, partied way too much, slept way too little, and they age much more rapidly than, somebody, the average person their age. So, that's an extreme case, but it's an obvious example that people can see and kind of wrap their heads around. So there are a lot of things that you can do to promote that kind of anti-aging. There are a lot of things that you can do from a supplemental or exercise standpoint that can kind of hack that anti-aging. Lifting heavy weights increases testosterone, it increases growth hormone. Lower rest periods will also increase growth hormone. Those are things that will stimulate more of the changes and more of the progress that you want to see. The longer that you've been detrained or inactive, the longer it's going to take to, see the results you want. But that's not to say that it can't be done. It absolutely can be. And there are things that you can do outside of, exercise that will, I guess the right way to say that would be kind of speed up the rate at which you reach that full result, whatever full is to you. There are a lot of like skincare products that you can use that will, reverse the effects of aging, from the outside. Like things like clay come to mind. They're great for their purification and detoxification properties. They also, if you look at, we talked about this, touched on it with some of the other things, where if you're eliminating the chemicals and the toxins that you're putting inside your body, then let's think about that on the outside. Think about all of the shampoos that you use, all of the cosmetic products that you use. Read those labels, look at what's in that stuff, and you're smearing that all over your body, all over the outside, all over your hair, multiple times a day. The things that you wash your hands with so you smell good, all those body sprays, that stuff is not good for you. When it comes to the cosmetics and that kind of stuff, if you can get to more natural stuff there, not only are you going to get the benefits of those natural ingredients, but you're also going to get the benefit of eliminating the application of those toxins to your skin. Your skin is your largest organ in your body. It's a barrier, and if it's always fighting to keep this stuff out that you constantly put on it, then that's time and energy that it could be devoting to doing something else, namely what it's supposed to be doing. So stop making it work extra to correct or fight the stuff that you're doing to it. While we're talking about that, Wi-Fi. You're basically slow cooking yourself. If you're sitting in an environment that has Wi-Fi going on, you've got radio signals going on, through your body all the time. There are all kinds of chemicals in our water. all kinds of environmental toxins and saboteurs. There's a lot being said right now about mold toxins, mycotoxins. If you have a house that leaks, you probably have mold somewhere in your walls. You're breathing in mold spores. So, these are all things that, we can eliminate to make ourselves healthier and more efficient, smarter, better, whatever. As far as like that Wi-Fi example goes, that's stuff, radio signals and radiation and stuff that's going through our bodies constantly that was not there 100 years ago. I hope I answered your question, Connie. What else, Tyler? What do we got now?
All right, the next question is from Donald. Says another good question. I'm not used to sweating in my warm-up. Is there something going on here?
Well, there could be a lot going on there. I know in our gym we don't have air conditioning, and over the summer, I mean, if you're not sweating in the warm-up in a gym with no air conditioning, there's probably something going on that's going to worry me more than the fact that you are sweating. I think what he's getting at there is, I guess, my assumption. I mean, look, a warm-up, you are supposed to elevate your core body temperature. That's what, by definition, that's what a warm-up is. We want to lubricate our joints. We want to get our body prepared for the work that it's about to do. I don't know what kind of warm-up you're referring to in this particular question, but for the sake of giving an answer, I'm going to talk about the warm-up that we do at House of Strength. We actually talked about this in the last Q&A podcast that Tyler was on. You're wearing your CPPS shirt. When we did the last one, you had just gotten back from CPPS. Those guys are, Joe DeFranco, James Smith, Smitty. They are famous for looking at performance as a whole, not just, well, how strong are you or how fast are you, but it's what's the quality of your joints and your muscle, your soft tissue. And those are things that, as we alluded to in that previous Q&A podcast, we're addressing movement quality, movement patterns, mobility, flexibility, joint work, soft tissue work in our warm-up at House of Strength. So many times our warm-ups take 20 minutes. And those may be the most valuable 20 minutes of somebody's session, depending on how much you need that or how bad those particular qualities are in that individual. So, I mean, the answer is yes, you should be sweating in a warm-up. If you're not sweating, then you're probably not warming up effectively, and you're probably, putting yourself at risk for injury. Without knowing more information about what exactly is going on there, that's all I can say. Tyler, I know you talked about this a little bit last time in the previous podcast, so let's put you on the spot a little bit, and what are your thoughts on, sweating in a warm-up, and what would you say to that?
I always like to give people examples of things, and usually I tell people, in the wintertime, you're supposed to start your car and let it warm up, so everything's ready to go, so you don't break something, you don't hurt something, nothing damages your car. So if someone has a warm-up and it lasts a minute or 2 minutes and you're not sweating, that's the equivalent of either you getting in your car and just going, or you get in your car, get out, shut the door, say, okay, car's warmed up now, get back in and drive off. And everybody out there knows that that's not how you do it. You have enough time to start your car, go back inside, finish getting ready, eat your breakfast, eat your dinner, whatever time you're leaving, and then go. A warm-up will take a lot longer than most people think it does to effectively warm up. I mean, the name is warming up after all. Yep. And I'll say your body's natural response to when it warms up and your internal core temperature increases is to cool itself back down. And your body's natural coolant is sweat. You'll sweat to cool yourself back down.
While you're on that subject, I know at House of Strength we have a couple of different warm-ups. And I know with a couple of different groups that you work with, you have them do different warm-ups, a little bit more tailored to what they're doing each day. So, I kind of am giving away the answer, but should folks do the same warm-up every single day?
Not really.
right?
Depends on what you're going to do. I mean, if you're going to go in the gym and bench press every single day, then maybe. But if you're doing something different, your warm up should be geared towards what you're going to do and prepare your body for what that is going to be.
Awesome. All right. Well, Tyler, do we have any more questions?
There's no more questions at all. Actually, I have a real life example of how important warming up is.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'll say we have an athlete at the gym who just recently went away to college, and they maxed the first week they were back in college. That's another story for a different day. But his number on the board in our gym is one number, and when he maxed there, it was 50 pounds below that, literally. And he called me, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, well, what was your warm up? He's like, oh, we didn't warm up. We just went in there, and the first thing I did was 10 reps of squat with the bar. I'm like, oh, okay, so you mean you didn't warm up at all? So not warming up at all cost this specific athlete 50 pounds on a squat in one workout. And I don't care who you are, that's pretty significant.
Yeah. And it's really, it sucks in that particular instance because, as a college athlete, that's the number that all of his workouts are going to be based off of for the rest of this semester, if at least, if not the whole year, depending on, the particular program. And like you said, that's a whole nother story for another day. We'll leave that one alone for now. But I think that's it then. If we're out of questions, we'll wrap this up. Make sure that you go to houseofstrengthgym.com and sign up for our newsletter. And this video and blog post will be on there as well. So you can click on the show notes, get links to more information on some of the stuff that we talked about. There will also be links for you to submit your question. I think after the last Q&A episode, we got some really, really good questions. Obviously, the ones that we answered today, I think they were awesome questions. Hopefully, they helped a lot of people. So if you've got a question, submit it, and we'll get yours on the future Q&A episode. So thanks a lot for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.